Hello everybody, welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Sony Open DFS Tactics show. Got a lot to get into, lots of lineups to create. Let's take a look at the rankings, the mixed condition model that I created, as well as a few last minute checks on some statistics. But we're going to start over at Windfinder. That gives you an indication of what one of the categories is that you're going to be needing to be aware of for this weekend. So let's not delay. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there at your disposal. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler, a much better DFS player. Go check them out. It's simply well worth your investment. In the link or in the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media, Twitter and Instagram. This is where I post research throughout the week leading into the tournament around prior champions, course statistics, all that kind of stuff. And after the show this evening, my betting card will also be over on Twitter. So if you want to see a summary of the research that I find throughout the week or my betting cards, give me a follow at those two places. And then my link to my Twitch channel is also in the description. This is where I do a lot of the in-depth research. This is where a lot of some Showdown content happens. Some alternate content, say gaming and whatnot. Much more laid back over there. So if you want to be a part of the in-depth research and a lot of the Showdown content, give me a follow over at Twitch. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. If you have any lineup questions tonight, feel free to throw them in chat. This player versus that player. Kind of curious to hear from you all. What lineups do you think you're going to be playing? Are you going to be going with the Stars and Scrubs build? Are you going to go balanced? Are there any key players that you are focusing on or staying away from? So put all of that in chat. Would love the interaction. But let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Sony Open. And we're going to start, as I mentioned, over at Windfinder. And you see that tonight they're supposedly getting a decent amount of wind that's going to last into the morning. And then supposed to die down during the afternoon. Now, typically, the wind picks up in the afternoon, so it is very possible that these winds kind of just stay at this mile an hour or at this velocity and all that stuff. But all I can go by is what I'm seeing via the forecast. So with this, tomorrow there looks to be a very, very clear PM favor. Majority of the tee times, or at least the afternoon tee times, tee off around noon local. So yes, looks like they will have some amount of wind, but certainly not as much as the morning that for the earliest tee times could have wind their entire round. So I've got a very, very heavy Thursday PM favor. And then if you look at Friday, there looks to be nothing. It's pristine, and Saturday for that matter. But as of right now, we're just focused on trying to get 6 of 6 through the cut. If I don't see any wind here, and in fact, it looks like it completely changes directions for the Thursday or for the Friday morning versus the Friday afternoon. I see a pretty severe Thursday PM, Friday AM favor. And again, this is a little speculative because wind normally picks up in the afternoon in various places for golf tournaments, but I can go by what I am seeing in terms of Windfinder. So a very heavy Thursday PM, Friday AM favor, and then Sunday just looks like pure havoc for the championship. So you're going to have to be pretty good in the wind regardless on Sunday. but a Thursday p.m., Friday a.m. favor. So let's go ahead and look at the leaderboard and the tee times and figure out who are some of the players that seemingly have the better end of the draw. So the players that look like they got the shorter end, perhaps Christian Zadenhout, Emiliano Grillo, Alex Smalley, Andrew Putnam, Siwoo Kim, Cam Davis, Adams Vinson, your feature groups of Russell Henley, Tom Hoge, Matt Kuchar, Billy Horschel, Jordan Spieth, and Zach Johnson. Those players seemingly got the worst end of the draw. Some other players here, Brian Harmon, Sam Ryder, who I'm pretty high on this week, Justin Suh, the standout rookie, some others here. We are pushing into the 9 o'clock. So there's a look at some of the morning tee times. And I'll scroll back up and, again, just kind of casually scroll down for you. This is at pgatour.com/leaderboard if you're wanting to see the tee times. But these are the players that are seemingly getting the worst end of the draw. They have wind in the morning, and it's supposed to die down in the afternoon. So conversely, players that have the good side of the draw, Denny McCarthy, Hayden Buckley, Ryan Palmer. We talked quite a bit about him on Monday evening, how he is 4 for 4 the last 5 years here at making the cut. Aaron Rye, Stefan Jaeger. Your feature groups, actually, in fact, Keegan Bradley, Tom Kim, Mackenzie Hughes. I don't know how that's not a feature group. It has to be. I would imagine that has to be one of the feature groups. It's not listed yet. But those players, and then the other feature group, Hideki, Sungjae, Adam Scott, look like they have the better end of the draw. Corey Connors, Grayson Sigg, Nick Hardy, Marty Doe, Taylor Montgomery, Carl Yuan, Ben Griffin, Keita Nakajima, the standout amateur who is now, I believe, a professional. He's been playing over here stateside a few times since he was 17. And he's made the cut at this tournament before being an amateur. So we'll talk about him in the 6Ks. Robbie Shelton. So there's a look at the players that look like they have gotten the better end of the draw. I'll scroll all the way back to the top. I'm going to keep this open just in case we want to look at it periodically throughout the night. But let's move over to Fantasy National. Hello, P. Glad you could make it. You're not going to miss 98% of it tonight. Hope your week has went well. Looking forward to the first full field tournament of 2023. Do you have any wagers, any lineups confirmed? Which that reminds me, I saw just earlier today, one more field change. John Huh has withdrawn. So if you submitted lineups with John Huh, make sure you change those or double check. He is withdrawn. Right now, you can see I have got this set for the entirety of 2022. I'm also including the Tournament of Champions last week in this data set. Make sure I'm grabbing all rounds. And we are going to take a look at players in the wind, moderate and windy. Again, 2.5 of the days look pristine, but if a player is not good in the wind or is good in the wind, it might affect them less or more depending on how good they are in the wind tomorrow morning when we just looked at Windfinder. So in your considerations, give these players a boost. Sungjae, Keegan Bradley, Chris Kirk, Tom Hoge, Gary Woodland, Corey Connors, Matt Kuchar, Scott Piercy, Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth, Brian Harmon, Billy Horschel, and Emiliano Grillo. Those are the players that were the best in the wind in 2022. And then on the other end of the spectrum, make sure you downgrade these players if you think wind is going to be quite a bit of a factor, especially tomorrow. Harry Higgs not good in the wind last year. Dylan Wu, Harris English, Danny Lee, Justin Subb, but that's only 2 rounds, so take it with a little bit of grain of salt there. Ryan Brim, Kevin Tway, Kramer Hickok, Chesson Hadley, Patton Gazire down here. Ryan Palmer actually was not very good in the wind either. So make sure you give those guys a downgrade if you think that wind is going to be a big factor. But the one thing that I want to really hammer home before we go into the mixed condition model is we talked quite a bit all week about putting and what we think these green speeds are going to be. Well, I went and looked yesterday, dug into a whole lot of prior performances here, prior performances in and around the Sony. I'm going to expand this out to January of 2021. But I have a big feeling, just a gut feeling that this is going to be fast this week. And historically, the players that have played well here at the Sony, or at least putt well on these greens, have been doing, they are very good when they are average speed, but they really fall off when it's fast. And that held true last year. 3 of the 4 rounds last year for the Sony were fast, considered fast greens, and the players that were generally better at fast greens rose in comparison to their average speed green performance. And again, I've got this filtered on fast. That'll tell you where some of my mixed condition model is, but your top fast speed Bermuda green putters since the start of 2021. I went all the way back to try to get a lot of data just to make sure it was consistent. I mean, you still have some players that have 1 round, 5 rounds, 8 rounds. Can't help that, but I tried to gather as much as I could for the players that have consistently been on the PGA Tour. Your top 10 in the past 2 years on Fast Bermuda: Ben Taylor, Chesson Hadley, Denny McCarthy, Brendan Todd, Zach Johnson, Tom Kim, Harry Higgs, Patton Gazire, Mac Hughes, and Troy Merritt. So if you are like me and think that these greens are going to be fast, then you make sure you give these players a boost in your rankings or in your consideration. Conversely, if I'm incorrect and the tournament goes back to its historical norm of average speed greens, then give these players a boost: Kelly Craft, Billy Horschel, Austin Cook, Matt Kuchar, Brendan Todd, Aaron Baddeley, JJ Spawn, Ben Taylor, Robert Streb, and Michael Thompson. You'll definitely have some overlap there. Brendan Todd's just a very, he's an elite putter. Matt Kuchar generally just putts well on Bermuda, so you'll have some overlap there. But if you think that the Sony and Waialae is going to play to medium or average speed greens, then make sure you give these players a boost. But I think it's going to be fast, and we will see at the end of the week or weekend if I am correct. So I really wanted to make sure I hit on the putting for you all because I did take quite a long look yesterday in terms of career norms, performance at Waialae specifically, and found that last year's trend held up with 3 of the 4 rounds being fast. The fast green putters fared a lot better in line with their career norms. So with that said, let's go on to the mixed condition model that I created for this week. And the top 2 metrics this week: birdies or better gained for all of 2022 when it's easy to par. Now that is shorthand. I am including last week's Tournament of Champions in these filters. I just shorthanded, said all 2022, but when we go to Microsoft Excel, you will see the correct timeline of tournaments. So for example, the birdies or better gained will say TOC to TOC. Just wanted to make that note for you all so you aren't confused as we go through this. But 20%, birdies are better gained. This has historically been easy. If the wind dies or stays down like the forecast has, it's going to be very easy. So I don't see that changing. Also, we talked all week about how important the par 4s are. So I have 20% in par 4s. I have 15% in strokes gained approach. I upped that from last year's mixed condition model, which we took a look at the end of Monday night. Strokes gained approach are more important here than the average full field course. It's just going to be something that you're going to have to be good at. Putting, all 21, 22, and 2023 TOC on fast Bermuda. Again, I gave you the explanation why as to why I think they're going to be fast earlier and especially on Monday night. So I put 10% there. Didn't want to overreact in case I am wrong, but I do have a very strong suspicion, so I did put 10% in fast Bermuda. 10% in total proximity. 10% in proximity 175 to 200. And we talked about 125 to 150 quite a bit on Monday evening. The reason I did not include 125 to 150 is that data set was fairly sporadic. You had some very low numbers and some very high numbers that led to the average of still being high in relation to other courses, but it wasn't a very consistent statistic, whereas the 175 to 200 was very, very consistent across all 5 years on the importance of that metric. So I felt very comfortable including 175 to 200. A little less comfortable doing 125 to 150. You'll also notice that 150 to 175 isn't in here, even though it said that it was more important than the average course as well. So that could be a potential downfall if other proximities matter other than this one. But 10% in total procs, 10% in specifically 175 to 200. I also have 10% in par 4s, 400 to 450. We saw that Monday night, how extremely important this range of par 4s is here at YLI. Almost an entire shot more important than the 450 to 500s. So even though there are 5 par 4s that measure to this length and 5 that measure to 450 to 500, these were drastically more important. So I separated these out to see who has been playing these well lately. And then lastly, we've talked all week that par 3s are fairly mitigated. 5% in 175 to 200 par 3s. What are some potential downfalls? We talked about if the greens go back to their regular norms of being average speed average speed, then I am going to be wrong there. Obviously, we talked about the procs 125, 150, 150 to 175, if those are a big deal. If par 5s matter more than I think, then I'm going to be weak. But I don't have any off the tee, any around the green. Off the tee, you could probably make an argument to try to fit in here. I don't think around the green is going to matter at all. So there is my mixed condition model for the 2023 Sony. Let's move on over to Microsoft Excel and get a look at my rankings. And just a reminder that this is not factoring in the wind at all. This is just a straight composite of the analytics from Fantasy National, the historical value that I've given each player on how well they've played YLI in the past 5 years, and I also factor in their ownership a little bit. So that is why I wanted to start with Windfinder and show you the leaderboard of who is teeing off on the good and bad side so you can make your adjustments as we go through the evening tonight. So my top 10 go as follows. Tom Hoagie is my number 1 rated player this week. Matt Kuchar, number 2. Brian Harmon, Sam Ryder, Brendan Todd round out the top 5. Followed by Emiliano Grillo, Billy Horschel, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, and KH Lee. A little bit surprising, to be honest with you, on a lot of these names. I was surprised to see Siwoo up here so high, but really the only thing he has performed poorly at is fast speed Bermuda greens. And if you think that these are going to go back to average speed, then he would be a fantastic play, as he is a much better average speed green putter than fast. But all of his other metrics have been pretty darn good. I mean, top 10 in approach since the start of this PGA Tour season. So number 6 in the fall and forward. He's number 1 at the proximity, 175 to 200 since the start of the PGA Tour season. He's been very good at procs, just total procs. So I was surprised to see Siwoo Kim, and then looking at the metrics, it makes a lot of sense. Billy Horschel, we've talked about, we've used him as an example quite a bit this week. He is generally a better, slower green speed putter than fast, but he's still very, very good on Bermuda. It's Bermuda greens. You got to think about Billy Horschel. To see him this high, a little surprising, but the numbers are what they are, and he's played this event very well. Sam Ryder, a 6K in the top 5 of my rankings, but you look, I mean, the 4 stats here, very strong. Nothing inside the top 10, but top 15 in strokes gained approach. He's played the par 4s extremely well since the start of the new PGA Tour season. His worst statistic are the par 3s, and I'm not sure how much those are going to matter. So Sam Ryder, very interesting up here at 4th in my rankings and in the 6Ks. Let's see, elsewhere, Russell Henley makes a lot of sense. Should have probably won this tournament last year. A winner in 2013, and then runner-up last year, K.H. Lee. I can never seem to narrow down K.H. Lee, and his course value is really bad, but the metrics love him this week. Now, analytically, the number 1 player is Tom Kim. He is getting hurt by the fact that he's never played this event before, or played this course, so this number is artificially high. I have to give him a number just so the math computes, but that number is pretty artificially high, and he's getting hurt by the fact that he is the number 1 projected owned player this week. But I mean, number 1 in birdies or better gained, number 2 in strokes gained approach, number 6 in fast speed Bermuda greens. I would not have him 15th personally. Like I said, he's getting hurt by the fact that he has never played this course, so this is a pretty high value here, and then the expected ownership is hurting him. But enough of the rambling on my rankings. Let's sort on the price board and see if we can find some good pivots, fades, and generally who we want to target this week. So we will sort on column E, largest to smallest. And yes, don't mind me as I talk to myself all the time. I am not going crazy. In the 10Ks, you have 4 players this week. You have Tom Kim, Sungjae, Hideki, and Jordan Spieth. Hideki, your defending champion, has played this event fairly well, especially recently, but he did struggle early in his career playing here. But in the last 5 years, you see the value very, very solid. And surprising to see Jordan Spieth so poor. He is also a former champion here, but that was beyond 5 years ago, so it's not getting factored in. And the analytics just don't like him. I was down on him last week at the Tournament of Champions. He didn't play particularly well. He's been really bad at the par 4s and the irons. So in the 10Ks, look, Hideki's always a withdrawal risk. I get it. And I'm not going to pick him to win the tournament. But give me the player that is almost the cheapest in the 10Ks, is the lowest amount of ownership, and it's not like he's been horrendous, analytically either. He is top 5, and birdies are better when it's easy. I mean, hell, his worst metric consistently on the PGA Tour is putting. He's in the top 20% or so in this field on fast greens, fast Bermuda greens. Now, I don't expect him to get 8 strokes on the greens again this week. That's what he did last year and won. but he is a much better fast green speed putter. So if they are indeed fast, I think Hideki's in a pretty good spot. He's also been very good with proximity as well. Total. Now the specific range has been woeful. The specific length of par 4 is woeful, and the par 3 is woeful. So, I mean, you have your concern, and you always have the withdrawal risk. But to me, I think if you're getting Hideki at roughly half the ownership that you are of Tom Kim, it's giving you a lot of leverage. It's giving you a lot of win equity, especially from the defending champion. I think Tom Kim probably has to be number 2. Even with the high amount of ownership and having never played here. Look, he never played Kapalua and did very well. I'm just not going to go out on a limb and say Tom Kim's not going to do good in a week for a little while. The young man is very, very good at golf. So I think Tom Kim would probably be second for me. And you see he is number 1 analytically. And then Sung Jae third, and I'm just completely off of Spieth this week. He would be 4th for me in the 10Ks. Moving into the 9s, Tom Hoge, Russell Henley, Brian Harman, Corey Connors, Billy Horschel, Keegan Bradley, Mav McNeely, and Taylor Montgomery. Well, we saw that Tom Hoge is the number 1 player in my rankings. He is on the bad end of the draw, so that does hurt his prospects a little bit. But he is the number 1 player in my rankings. He's all or nothing at this event, so he's either missed the cut or had a top 15 every year the past 5 years. So boom or bust option. But if you are number 1 in my rankings, 2 analytically with 2 stats and a third that's just off the screen here, total procs is also number 1. 3 stats that you are number 1 in the field on, I'm gonna use Tom Hoge, and if he doesn't play well, then clearly the mixed condition model was wrong. But there's a lot to like here with Tom Hoge. Russell Henley, a little bit high on the ownership for me, especially since he is on the bad end of the draw. Same for Brian Harman. Don't like his chances. I'm actually very high on Corey Connors this week, as a lot of people are. He is number 2 in terms of projected ownership. I like Corey Connors a lot. He's on the good side of the draw. We talked about Monday. He is the strokes gained total leader here at YLI the past 5 years. A lot to like. And you don't have to have putting form coming in to win YLI. Little off on Billy Horschel. I think he's a little too high. Keegan, okay. I mean, 10%. It's fine. He's much more of a bent green putter than a Bermuda green putter. He didn't particularly play well last week. Maybe that was rust. Who knows? Keegan's fine. I really like Mav McNeely, but again, he's on the bad side of the draw. But to see Taylor Montgomery at 9,000, the cheapest 9,000, and at 11.5%, I like Taylor Montgomery quite a bit. I like Taylor Montgomery quite a bit this week. So in the 9Ks, if I haven't been using Hoge, I've been going Connors and Taylor Montgomery. I think Henley's a little bit too widely owned, although I understand why you would use him, and he's a runner-up and a former champion. Brian Harman has the stats, number 2 in par 4s since the fall. He didn't play Kapalua very well, but that course probably doesn't suit him the best. I'm off on Horschel, even though he is 7th in my rankings. I think that's a little bit too high. He's getting helped by the fact that he has played this event well, and there's not a lot of people on him. So if you feel strongly about Billy Horschel, especially if you think these greens are going to slow down and go back to their norms, Billy Horschel will probably be a good play. And I'm off of McNeely because he is on the bad side of the draw. So there's a look at the 9s. We'll move to the 8s. We have K.H. Lee, Adam Scott, Cam Davis, J.J. Spawn, Keith Mitchell, Siwoo Kim, Christian Bezadenhout, Emiliano Grillo, and Andrew Putnam. I love K.H. Lee. I guess I mentioned it in the top 10, or when the reveal of my rankings, top 10. I can never nail this guy down. The analytics love him this week. He's top 10 in par 4s, top 10 in approach, top 5 in total proximity, and top 5, second, not just top 5, second in the specific length of proximity, 175 to 200. That's just off the page there. But 2 top 10 stats, plus 2 more top 5 stats that are, again, off the screen over here. I'm going with the analytics. I'm not going to go with the course history on KH Lee this time. He is getting a little bit of love, but that's fine. He's certainly a lot less than, the Russell Henleys, the Brian Harmons up here. So I really like KH Lee this week. Cam Davis, I'm very, very high on for the entire year. A lot of people seem to think this is going to be a good fit for Cam Davis. I'm a little shaky on him, especially since he's on the bad side of the draw. Look, he gets birdies in bunches. Won't fault you for taking him for the high, tremendous amount of upside. He's a pretty good putter on Bermuda, but his proximity hasn't been good. 96th in total proximity. And the specific length of par 4s haven't been good. So I'm a little shaky on Cam Davis this week. No thank you on Spawn. No thank you on Keith Mitchell. Mitchell plays difficult courses very well. He is not at his best when it's easy, so no thanks on Keith Mitchell. I like Siwoo. Again, a lot of the same reasons I like KH Lee, just the analytics love him. We talked about him in the reveal of the top 10. I mean, really the only statistic is the fast speed Bermuda greens, and if you think they're going to slow down, then Siwoo Kim's going to be a very good play. But even at fast, I think there's enough here, especially at 8.5%, that I think he is worth a look. Bezuidenhout, no thank you. This seems like it would be a Christian Bezuidenhout course. He just hasn't played well lately, so I'm just waiting for him to get right. Grillo and Putnam, both on the bad end of the draw, but this is a course that Putnam should really take advantage of. Off the tee really doesn't matter here, at least I don't think it will. Very good at par 4s, top 20 in approach. I like Andrew Putnam a lot, but again, remember, he is on the bad side of the draw. So there's a look at the 8Ks. I'm definitely going to be using a lot of KH Lee, a little bit of Siwoo Kim, even though he is on the bad side of the draw as well. I'm going to limit my Cam Davis and Andrew Putnam, Emiliano Grillo, hoping that Taylor Montgomery and KH Lee will fill in the void there in this area of the price board. And there's a lot in the low 7s that I really like. So moving to upper 7s here, we have Matt Kuchar, Denny McCarthy, Harris English, Alex Smalley, Kurt Kitayama, JT Poston, Hayden Buckley, Will Gordon, Gary Woodland, Nick Hardy, Adams Vinson, and Mackenzie Hughes. Matt Kuchar, number 2 in my rankings. He has played this event extremely well, as you can see there, and he's 4th by the metrics. He loves easy courses. He's at his best when it's short. No bad statistic across here. He is on the bad side of the draw. But I think that the course form, the analytics, will override that a little bit. I think he will be serviceable in DFS. McCarthy, for as much as this feels like it should be a Denny McCarthy course, especially revolving around the putting, he's not played well here. So that gives me a lot of concern. Alex Smalley, again, on the bad side of the draw. I like the player. I don't like the draw. I like the analytics. I don't like the side of the draw he's on. In the upper 7s, take a look at Nick Hardy. I like Nick Hardy a lot. Don't be too scared by this number. He's only played this event twice, and he was injured for some parts of last year. Number 4 in irons now that he's healthy. Top 20 in the specific proximity here at YLI. The par 3s are good. If Nick Hardy is indeed at 5.7%, I'll be very happy. Maybe there's a reason he's at 5.7%, but I'm going to be using quite a bit of Nick Hardy, I believe, this weekend. Really like his chances. Svensson burned me last week. I mean, he generally plays easy courses well, so, you know, if you want to go on the easy course metric or narrative, sure. I mean, you see he gets birdies in bunches. He's not been good at the par fours. So you got a little bit of some concern there with Adam Svensson, but I understand the logic behind it. Also, take a look at Hayden Buckley. I really like Hayden Buckley this week. Analytics-wise, he doesn't jump off the page. He finished 12th last year. Middling ownership numbers. I have a gut feeling on Hayden Buckley, so take a look at Hayden Buckley as well. But moving into the low sevens, where I think there are a lot of players that are available to you. Starting at Brendan Todd, Aaron Rai, Webb Simpson, Chris Kirk, Grayson Sigg, Ben Griffin, Patton Gaziah, Brendan Steele, Russell Knox, Stephen Yeager, Justin Suh, Troy Merritt, Davis Thompson, Mark Hubbard, David Lipsky, Kevin Streelman, Ryan Palmer, Luke Glover, Robbie Shelton, S.H. Kim, Brandon Wu, and Chez Reavie. Let's talk about a player we've talked about quite a bit this week, Ryan Palmer. Now, you see he is rated terrible. Well, you would see. Now you see that he is rated terrible in my rankings. The analytics don't like him. He has not played well in the fall at all. But look, number 1 in birdies or better when it's easy from 2022. And he's got a low ownership, and we've talked about it quite a bit. He's 4 for 4 in the past 5 years here at YLI. He has not missed a cut in those 5 years. I think Ryan Palmer is going to be pretty serviceable for you. Elsewhere in the low sevens, Brendan Todd, especially concerning putting, whether it is fast or average. He's just a very good putter. Putters generally fare well here. You can see he's played the event pretty darn well. I don't think I would have him 5th, but I think Brendan Todd's going to be good. Webb Simpson has played this event extremely well. Do you believe he's healthy? I don't yet. And that's a player that I'll lose to. So if Webb Simpson plays well, I'll lose. I'm going to be using a whole lot of Grayson Sigg and Ben Griffin for various reasons. Both of them have gone low when it's easy. Both of them have excelled at par fours. Now, Ben Griffin's been very good at iron play, and if you remember, he was leading the Bermuda until he got wayward on the back 9 on Sunday at the Bermuda Championship. But that course was windy, coastal, just like YLI is. I think this sets up pretty well for Ben Griffin. And Grayson Sigg has been doing a lot of things well. Also, total procs, strokes gained putting, like fast Bermuda, he's been good. He's been good at the specific length of par fours as well. Where'd it go? There it is. So I like both of these players at 7,300. Grayson Sigg is less than 10% owned. Now, Ben Griffin is getting some or a good amount of love at 13.5%, but I think for good reason. Others in here, I want to mention Mark Hubbard. Now, I'm personally not going to use him, but you know, analytically he was 14th. He had an injury at the Houston Open. Didn't play at the RSM. This is his. Obviously, he hadn't won a tournament, so he didn't play at the Tournament of Champions last week. His first action since the injury. I'm going to wait and see. But generally speaking, Mark Hubbard was trending upwards. So if you aren't scared of the injury, take a look at Mark Hubbard, especially since he is at low ownership. David Lipsky is somebody to keep an eye on this week as well. I like David Lipsky. Very good at total procs. Very good at the par fours. And then finally in the low sevens, 2 7Ks, Korn Ferry Tour grads that I would be, that I'm fine with firing up. Robbie Shelton and S.H. Kim. S.H. Kim jumped onto the scene the first couple of tournaments in the fall. They were easy, and he generally did pretty well off the tee with those. Again, the Sony, easy. Not necessarily off the tee based, but not a long course. I think this sets up well for S.H. Kim. You see the par fours, fantastic. And the specific length of par fours, elite, at least in comparison to this field. Same for Robbie Shelton at the specific length of par 4s here. Some varying degree of success in proximity. Now, Robbie Shelton is not a very good putter on fast Bermuda, or hasn't been in the past 2 years. S.H. Kim has been in his limited time on the PGA Tour. But the irons have been very good for Shelton, and they have not been for S.H. Kim. So each player has their pros and cons, but two players that I think are going to be pretty good, especially at 2.5% for S.H. Kim. I think he's going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be pretty good this weekend. He's on the right side of the draw. He's one of the last tee times tomorrow. So if the wind does not pick up, he is not going to have to deal with any wind. It's plain and simple. So he's almost got the ideal draw. Robbie Shelton's on the good side of the draw as well. I will casually mention Lucas Glover. He is on the bad side of the draw, so I'm not nearly as high as the other two. But, I mean, you see he's played this event one time, just once, in the past 5 years. That's why he has such a low number, but he played it well. So take that for what you will. In the 6Ks, there's not a lot going on down here that I am going to recommend. One of the players, actually both players that are getting use, I would recommend. Ryan Armour at 9%. He's played this event fairly well. He popped on a few metrics last night. Good at the par 4s. He's very good at total procs. He just has to convert them, which he has been in the past couple of years on fast Bermuda greens. So, at 6,900, I mean, yes, 9% is the most chalky 6K play, but I don't hate that play at all. And then the other player that's getting some love in the 6Ks is Ben Taylor. He really had a good RSM. People might not have realized that as the PGA was winding down the last tournament of the fall portion of the schedule, etc. But, I mean, par 4s, irons, number 1 in the very short time he's been on the PGA Tour, so small sample size, yes, but number 1 on fast Bermuda greens. He's also very good at the specific length of par 4s here as well. I like Ben Taylor at 6,800, but he is also at 8.5% owned, pretty high for a 6K. Others in the 6Ks that I'm going to mention to you all, again, take a look at Sam Ryder. He is on the bad end of the draw, but man, the analytics love him. 3rd in total proximity, 11th in irons since the fall, almost our top 25 player in this field in par 4s since the fall. The analytics love him. I don't remember right offhand what his wind metrics were, so you're going to want to double check that. But even on the bad side of the draw, I think Sam Ryder would be worth using in a lineup or two. And take a look at Carl Yuan. I think this could be a good breakout course for Carl Yuan this week. Goes low when it's easy. And he's been very good with the irons this fall. He's been very good in proximity, total procs, and the specific length. So I like Carl Yuan. He will have to clean up the par 4 scoring, absolutely, no doubt about that. But I do think this could be a good coming out party for Carl Yuan. Last name that I will throw out at you all is at 6,700. It's Kaita Nakajima. I mentioned him just a little bit earlier in the show. I think he is now a professional, but he has made the cut here as an amateur before. And now that he's turned pro, he played at the Zozo, middling results. He's comfortable with the course. I think he's worth a flyer if you're going with a Stars and Scrubs look. Take a look at Kaita Nakajima. There's a look of how I see the price board this week for the Sony. Let's move to creating some lineups. We'll start with tiers contests. In Tier 1, we have Tom Kim, Sung Jae, and Hideki. I think just the best play is Tom Kim. Hideki is very interesting, but I think I'm still going to take Tom Kim even with the high amount of ownership. and rely on getting my uniqueness elsewhere. But I don't hate the Hideki play. I really don't. Tier 2, Jordan Spieth, Tom Hoge, Russell Henley, Brian Harman, and Corey Connors. I'm going with Corey Connors because he's the only one of these 5 that's on the good side of the draw. If you are not scared of the wind, I think Tom Hoge is going to be unique enough among these 5 that he's worth the selection. If you're not scared of the wind, I will go with Corey Connors, knowing that he is on the good side of the draw, even if he is chalky. Tier 3, Billy Horschel, Keegan Bradley, Maverick McNeely, Taylor Montgomery, and Adam Scott. I'll go with Taylor Montgomery. I think this might be, or at least I would be hoping this is where I get some amount of uniqueness. He's on the right side of the draw. We've talked about Billy Horschel. If you think the greens are going to slow down, take Billy Horschel. Just no thanks on Adam Scott and Keegan and Mav. Okay. It's just kind of, I guess it's fair, but I'm going to go with Taylor Montgomery in Tier 3. Tier 4, KH Lee, Cam Davis, JJ Spawn, Keith Mitchell, Siwoo Kim, Christian Bezadenhout, and Emiliano Grillo. Give me KH Lee. I'm just very, very high on him this week. I have my reservations about Cam Davis this week. Siwoo Kim could be interesting. Grillo is interesting if you're not scared of the bad side of the draw. Tier 5, Andrew Putnam, Matt Kuchar, Denny McCarthy, Harris English, Alex Smalley, Kurt Kitayama, and JT Poston. Even though he's the bad side of the draw, I'm going to take Matt Kuchar just all around in this course form. He's a former champion here, loves playing here. He does his best work when it's short, does his best work when it's easy. Everything just seems to line up for Matt Kuchar here, so I'll take him in Tier 5. And then finally, Tier 6, Troy Merritt, Davis Thompson, Mark Hubbard, Ryan Palmer, Robbie Shelton, Ches Reavie. I think that's it. Might surprise you. I'm actually going to go with Robbie Shelton. Yes, Ryan Palmer has played this event very, very well, but the fall form is very bad. So you have enough reason to be concerned, and I would be a little bit concerned with that. Father Time's undefeated, and Ryan Palmer is getting up there in age. So I'll take the younger player, Robbie Shelton, thinking he'll be unique enough to cover my bases for all the chalky picks in Tier 1, 2, and 3. So there's a look at the tiers contests and how I see them unfolding this week for the Sony. Let's get into making some classic lineups. And if we're going to try to find these chalky lineups that your fellow contestants are making, we're going to have to start with the chalkiest of chalky plays. We're going to have to go with Tom Kim and then follow it up with Corey Connors. It stinks because I want to use that opening for my lineups. It is what it is. That's where a lot of your fellow contestants are going. Now, from here, if they don't go Corey Connors, they might fall down to, say, a KH Lee or Cameron Davis. From here, you have to think if they are going to try and squeeze in an 8K. If they are, it's Andrew Putnam, and they are dropping into the 6s to grab Ryan Armour. If they are grabbing an 8K. If they aren't, then it might change a little bit. But you're right at $7,500 per player with this kind of construction. Ben Griffin is getting quite a bit of love at 73. The highest among what's left is Svensson, leaving a couple $100 on the table, but you're matching at 15.5% for a big GPP. That's quite a lot. That's pretty heavy. So there's one look of a chalky lineup that some of your fellow contestants might be going. If they aren't going to Corey Connors, say if they're going to try to save a little bit more money and maybe not have to drop down into the 6s, they're going, we'll give them KH Lee, Young Lee, and then we'll bottom them out at, we'll use Russell Knox. It'll be a little less of ownership percentage here, but just in the interest of using different names, Russell Knox, you see, is getting a little bit at 11.5. But if they go something to the effect of maybe KH Lee, Could even throw in a Cam Davis in here. And again, you're right back at that same 7,500 per player. We'll put in a couple of different names here. Alex Smalley at 78. And again, this is 73. I want to use different names, but the facts are that Ben Griffin is just getting a whole lot of love in that area. Again, this basically the same amount of percentage. Can't remember if it was 15.6 or 15.4. I know it was right in there. So two different looks of teams using Tom Kim, and if your fellow contestants, if they're not using Tom Kim, they might be doing some kind of balanced build where they perhaps go Brian Harmon, Corey Connors, Cam Davis, Keith Mitchell, maybe. That might be a little bit too expensive, but you get the general gist here. They're trying to squeeze in 3 to maybe 4 low 9s, 8s, and then a couple of lower 7s to round it out. This is going to be a bit too expensive. Brian Harmon, Connors, Davis. We'll drop off of Mitchell. We've used Putnam. We've used Smalley. Hayden Buckley getting a little bit at in the upper 7s. 73 again is Ben Griffin, Russell Knox. Let's see, is there anybody else that's getting any amount of love down here? Not really. So again, these same players that we've been using for filling out these lineups. There's a look at, gosh, look at that, another, the same 15.4 and a completely different look of a lineup. So there you go. Just a different variation of a lineup that might be getting used this week. So if we're going to combat that, and by all means, put it in the comments if you are wanting to see, say, a particular player or idea of a lineup. Maybe you're wanting to focus on proximity or focus on approach or whatever. Put it in chat. Put it in chat. I almost said put it in the comments, but by then it'll be too late. Put it in chat if you're wanting to see some specifics around lineups. But for me, trying to combat these chalky lineups with Tom Kim, and it really stinks because I really want to use Tom Kim. He's a big risk, but I mentioned it at the top in the 10Ks. I mean, he's probably my number one player because he's the least owned and he's one of the cheapest 10Ks. He is the defending champion. He comes with his obvious risks. But at 12.5%, you're getting essentially half the ownership of Tom Kim. And then from here, if I want to go Corey Connors, I feel like I can because I didn't go Tom Kim. But I've been comfortable going, say Taylor Montgomery. And start off with Hideki, Taylor Montgomery. It's leaving myself quite a bit of money that I don't have to threaten coming down into the 6Ks if I don't want to. Both of these players are also on the good side of the draw. So it allows me to maybe take a chance on a player that might be on the wrong side of the draw. Shoot, at this point, K.H. Lee is also on the good side of the draw. And his ownership isn't going to completely tank or catch us up to the rest of the contestants. Although that is cutting into quite a bit of the chunk left. But say if we go with this big three, I mean, we don't have to threaten coming into the 6Ks at all. I've given you several options in the 7s. I like Robbie Shelton, S.H. Kim, Ryan Palmer. I'm not going to personally use him, although I could be kicking myself by the end of the weekend because course form is a thing, and he has played very, very well here. Ben Griffin, Grayson Sigg. So instead of Ben Griffin, I'll use Grayson Sigg. Let's use Robbie Shelton at 7K. That should give us an upper 7 to end it. Yeah, Matt Kuchar, who, yes, is on the bad side of the draw, but former champion, loves this course. we're at sub 11%. We have got everybody on the right side of the draw except for Kuchar. And I think Kuchar plays this course well enough that he can negate the wind. The view will be skewed, but let's go ahead and come back here, see if we can't see where some of these players are in terms of wind performance. Fantasy National having a tough time. All right, so Matt Kuchar. Oh, look at that. I mean, he's right up here at 7th. So at least in terms of analytics, it doesn't say that he should be affected too much by the wind. So that is a lineup there that I really, really like. Hideki, again, a little bit of some speculation here on KH Lee. I'm just really high on him. Taylor Montgomery, what's there to say? He's been the best rookie. Sig and Shelton, and then Kuchar. I like that lineup quite a bit. If you are wanting to use either Tom Kim or you don't want the risk of Hideki, Sungjae is fine, but if you're going to go Sungjae, like I would argue to go Tom Hoge and build more of a balanced build. Again, Tom Hoge, 14.5%. He's not going to bust you in terms of setting yourself up for a 5v5 right off the gate, or right off the bat, right out of the gate, however you want to say it. So you can go maybe Hoge Connors, Hoge Horschel if you're there, or Hoge KH Lee, Hoge Cam Davis. I'm going to go Hoge Connors. And then in the 8Ks, again, KH Lee, Emiliano Grillo, Andrew Putnam. Tom Hoge is on the bad side of the draw, so I'm going to try not to put multiple players that are on the bad side of the draw. So therefore, it would be KH Lee or skip the 8s entirely, which honestly, I think skipping the 8s entirely might be okay. You can come all the way down. We've mentioned him tonight, Hayden Buckley. I'm also very high on Will Gordon. You can hover around in these mid-7s. Nick Hardy, we haven't even thrown in the lineup yet. We've got upper 7s. We're still not approaching the level of chalk that we were. Who else up here in the upper 7s? Harris English, if you want to believe that in health. Again, analytics say Denny McCarthy should play well, but he's just never played this course well, so I'm a little gun-shy there. Alex Smalley's on the bad side of the draw, but the analytics thinks he's going to be pretty good. So you have quite a few options in here. Maybe Adams Vincent. He plays easy courses well, and we talked about it last week. He doesn't play long courses well, which is what Kapalua is. So maybe coming to Sony works for him. That's a little bit more chalky at 12%, but you're avoiding a whole lot of the chalk. Honestly, all of your chalk's coming in Corey Connors. If you're not wanting to match that high, you just take out Corey Connors and find somebody else. And you're like Billy Horschel, by all means. Like you're gonna be sub 10%. Merk, how are you doing? It's been a long time. Glad you could jump in chat. I am really, really liking that wager. Grace, I am very, very high on Grayson Sig. I have him 14th. The analytics love him. Now he's getting hurt in my rankings because he played this event last year and didn't play it particularly well. He made the cut, but not fantastic. But top 15 in both birdies are better game. He's actually top 10 in par 4s. Putting is good, and of course that it rewards putting. I'm with you there on the top 20 on Grayson Sig. I like that. I'm curious to hear what kind of price you got on that. I can't imagine it was very high. But if it is, you might see me hop onto DraftKings right this second and put that in there. Because I really like that bet. But thanks for stopping in and chat. It's been a long time. Don't be a stranger. How have you been? Hopefully things are going well in your neck of the woods. That is what I have for the Sony. In the comments, put down any wagers that you have. As always, if you are winning this weekend, get with me on social media or in the comments. I would love to be able to shout you out like I did a couple of people earlier in the week who had some successful weeks for the Tournament of Champions. As always, my betting card will be out tonight after the show. I'm running behind tonight, so I've got all of my lineups to input into DraftKings. So might be a little bit late this evening putting the betting card out, but it'll be out. But P and Mark, thanks for jumping in chat. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone out there who supports the channel in whatever way you do. Commenting, liking the video, subscribing. It's always appreciated. Love what I do. How do you think Alex Smalley will fare? Alex Smalley. The issue with Smalley, and the vision will be skewed, but last question I'll take before we sign off. Alex Smalley is in the bad part of the draw. He is... Well, now I'm just going to have to search for him. He's teeing off at 7:20, one of the earliest tee times. Reason that's an issue, Mert, at least it looks like I'm going to have to change this so you can see. Here's the forecast. Tomorrow morning looks pretty bad, and then normally the wind is supposed to pick up. It's actually projected to die down. So if you don't think it's going to die down, then Alex Smalley would probably be fine. But all I can do is go by the forecast here. And the forecast says he's got a terrible draw. So there's a heavy Thursday PM split here. Thursday PM, Friday AM favor. Because of that, I think he might struggle. I mean, he's not terrible in the wind. He's 25th, but I mean, the simple fact is there looks to be a good half and a bad half of the draw, and he's got the bad half, and sometimes it just happens. Leave you off with my rankings here for the Sony. Mark, thanks again for the question. Sorry I was a little rushed and at the end of the show. But as I was saying, thanks to everybody who supports the channel, tunes in, watches, and listens. Reminder, I will be live Friday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Time for all of your Showdown and weekend golf content for the Sony. So for all of the wagers you have made this week for the Sony, for all the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Sony, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.